All right, shalom, shalom. Yeah, the sound went out earlier. If you do these lives, man, you know that if somebody call you, the sound gonna go out. I don't know how to fix that. I think you just have to let it ring and just keep talking through it. But nonetheless, we want to give all praises, glory, and honor to the Most High by the way of his Son, who's an instrument of salvation for the nation. This is going to be a part 2, picking up right where we left off in Romans chapter 10, Romans chapter 9, right, in verse 21. Romans 9:21 says what? Hath not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor? So guess what? Sometimes you can have, he makes the vessels, right? From the beginning, it says earlier up in this verse, or earlier up in this chapter, it says that Jacob have he loved, Esau has he hated. Before they could do any evil or good, before they was even in their mom's womb, he made these vessels for what they were supposed to do. So even though Jacob throughout his lifetime may have committed sin, that doesn't make his vessel different. And even if Esau throughout his lifetime may have done some good deeds, that doesn't make his vessel different, because according to purpose, according to election, according to the will of the Most High God, he made two vessels for a purpose. So we can't just say, well, even though they're gay, they're a good person, so we can accept them. No, it's according to God. If their acts is wrong according to God, guess what? And also, we can't change a person. It said, who can make that which is crooked straight? He made two vessels. He made two vessels. It doesn't matter how much good this evil vessel does, it's still being prepared for destruction. And it doesn't matter how much bad that this good vessel does, it's still being prepared for righteousness. That's why we can see people that were sinners like Paul turn their life around. It doesn't matter how many people he killed, there's still a spot for Paul in the kingdom, right? It doesn't matter how much good who's somebody that it doesn't matter how much good it doesn't matter how much good Egypt was to the children of Israel and some of the pharaohs. Guess what? The Most High God still hardened hearts at the end. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter. It does not. We keep looking on the flesh. We look at the flesh and we see what people are doing, and we don't see through the spirit. That's why the Most High God said, judge righteous judgment and don't have respect of persons. All right. So moving on from that, that was my first. I said I had 3 points on the harsh truth, right? That was my first point. My second point on the harsh truth is hate. When you come into this truth, you never knew that hate was in the Bible. You never knew that hate was in the New Testament. You never knew that there was going to be a time to hate. You never knew that there was going to be people to hate. You never knew that you never knew this stuff. When I was coming to the truth, I was in denial. I didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? According to my flesh, according to what I learned in Christian dogma. What is Christian dogma? A good example would be science dogma. The science dogma will tell you that you need a scientific method to establish a fact, right? And so you go through the steps and the laws and the rules of this, the law of this in science, and that's science dogma. Christian dogma is the same thing. Christian dogma is they taught you this was wrong. They taught you this was right. They taught you that the Bible said this, even though it didn't. But that's Christian dogma. We got to get out of Christian dogma. Right. So everything that the Most High does is all this to get us back in our land. Come on. So all prophecy is being fulfilled, right, to get us back in that land. Ultimately, right. Ultimately, it's being set up so we can walk back into our land. Right. Right now, the land is at rest from us. It's being trodden down by the Gentiles. But the Bible says the land is at rest from us. We giving that land a rest. Right. If you know anything about the law of like farming, right. The 7th year of farming, you're not supposed to farm in that same spot no more. You're supposed to pick another plot on your land to farm. It's called giving the land rest, right? We get rest, the land get rest. So spiritually, our land right now is getting rest right now until we're back in it for eternity. All right, so check this out. And really it's getting a rest from what? All the wickedness that was done from us. That's why we're not in there no more. But everything's being set up so that we can walk back in there. So let's go to my second point of the harsh truth when you come into the truth, right? Hate. A lot of us, when we first come into the truth, we don't understand hate. When we see people preaching hate, and we see people teaching about hate, and we see people bringing out scriptures we never seen before, and it might repel some of us to go back into the world, to go back into Christianity, to go be a Muslim again, right? Because we don't understand how God operates and how God thinks. But remember, it's a just weight. It's a just balance, right? God deals with everything according to balance. If there's a superhero, there has to be a villain, right? If there's righteous, there has to be evil. If there's a chosen people, there has to be a chosen people for the opposite side. All right. So check this out. Matthew, I'm going to go to Matthew 10 real quick, just to prove that a lot of people that shame the truth are really hypocrites. This is Matthew chapter 10 and verse 22. And it's still dealing with hate. This is still dealing with hate, right? Matthew chapter 10 and verse 22. Matthew 10:22, it reads, "And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved." Now, why did I go there? Because the same people that say to you, you're not supposed to hate, the same people that say to you, that's you're of Satan, you're of the devil, this is not the truth, this is not the gospel, right? The same people that say they're preaching hate, that's hate speech. You can't say that about that person. You can't tell that person what they can and can't do. You know, those same people that's preaching against hate, they're hypocrites. Why? Because they hate the fact that we wear fringes. They hate that we keep the holy days. They hate that we call ourselves Israelites. They hate us. They hate the way we look because God made us so beautiful. They hate the fact that we're right most of the time. They hate the fact that we're students of the word. They hate us, right? But they'll tell us what? That we can't hate, but they hate us. They'll lie and say, I don't hate you, I love you, but they hate us. They go and talk behind our backs. They tell people lies about us of what we're saying and what we're not saying. They don't give the whole story. And with their actions, they hate us. They'll cuss at us, right? They'll scream at us. They'll even want to fight us, right? They'll lie on us, bear false witness. That's hate. That's a sin. They're bearing false witness. That's lying. That's hate, right? Even Christ came to divide / hate, right? Matthew 10:34. I'll read Matthew 10 and 34 since I'm in here right now. It says, "Think not that I came to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword." What's that sword for? Right? For I come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against his mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Right? So that sword is for what? Division. A sword is for cutting. If I cut this piece of paper, there's two sides of it. So he came what? To divide. Like I said earlier, he's been dividing from the very beginning. He's been dividing from light and darkness, night and day. Even with the Tower of Babel, he told the angel, he said, look, behold, the people are one. And he was not rocking with that. He said, hey, look, give them all different languages, make them all different nations, right? He said, divide them up. So we got to understand the Lord. We got to understand the Most High. We got to understand the scriptures when we come into this truth and not put away this truth, but put away our emotions and our feelings, right? That's the only way we're going to what? Endure until the end, like it just said, right? So moving on, let's go to Psalms 139 and 21. I'm going to let the Bible speak real quick. So with all that being said, the scriptures I'm about to read, don't think that I'm picking and choosing. Don't think that this is my own words. Just know that I'm reading out the Bible, and let's put our emotions aside and just accept the Bible, no matter how much it might hurt our ego, no matter how much it might hurt the fact that we taught somebody wrong and it actually says this. Let's just let the Bible speak for itself, right? Psalms 139 and verse 21. Psalms 139, Salakia, and verse 21. Do not I hate them, O Lord, that hate thee? And am I not grieved with those that rise up against thee? When we come into this truth, hey, look, a lot of us are grieved that people don't want to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. And a lot of us, we don't want to call it hate. Right. Thus saith the Most High, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. a lot of us, we don't want to admit it, but we end up hating some of our family members, hating some of our friends because they do not want to get down with what the books say, right? Like the video I went over last night, Proverbs 28:4 says, we're going to always contend with those that forsake the law. All right. And so right here, it says, don't I hate them, O Lord, that hate thee? When we see somebody that doesn't love the Lord, they don't keep what God says to do, it puts a hate in our heart. You know what I'm saying? So check this out. Let's keep reading. That was David. Let's go to Sirach now. This is Sirach talking. The son of Jesus, or the grandson of Jesus, right? Meaning there's multiple Jesuses in the Bible, but that's a story for another day, right? This is Sirach 12:6. Sirach chapter 12 and verse 6. And it reads, for the Most High hateth sinners and will repay vengeance unto the ungodly and keepeth them against the mighty day of their punishment. Right? For the Most High hateth sinners. So he doesn't just hate the sin. He also hates the sinner. Right? What's a sinner? A sinner is somebody that practices sin. Meaning, if you're righteous and you sin, that doesn't make you a sinner. That just means you might have fell, you might have slipped up, you might have gave into your flesh at that point, but you don't practice sin, right? When you practice sinning, that makes you a sinner. The people that know how to scam without getting caught, hey, guess what? You're a practicing sinner. The people that know their limits of alcohol, but they still pass their limits of alcohol and get drunk all the time, guess what? You're practicing sin. You're a sinner. The people that know how to lie and not get caught and cover up their lie with another lie and be smooth with the word, and guess what? You're a practicing sinner. The people that just see wickedness go on and don't rebuke it, hey, you're a practicing sinner. When you're not teaching nobody, you're a practicing sinner. All right. When you do these things over and over again, repetition, you become a practicing sinner. You practice sin, that makes you a sinner. And the Most High God said he hates sinners. Thus saith the Lord. I'm going to get something else and let the Bible speak for itself. Psalms 5:5. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 5 and verse 5. Psalms 5 and verse 5. And it reads, the foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all the workers of iniquity. Right? So the Most High God, guess what? He hates everybody that goes against his law. And they're in iniquity. You know what I'm saying? There was a saying a while ago. He was beaten for our transgressions and bruised for our iniquity. And they said the difference between transgression and the difference between iniquity is just as so. It says he was beaten for our transgressions, right? So they'll say, okay, he was beaten. That's something that you can see physically. So when you transgress the law, you can see that physically, right? You can see when you disobey the law physically. He was beaten, an outward appearance for our transgression. He was bruised for our iniquity. What's our iniquity? The inherent sins, right? The inherent sins of our forefathers. That we don't even know that we're doing it wrong because it's been passed down from generation to generation. But guess what? That work of iniquity, he doesn't let that go. He doesn't let that slide just because you didn't know. He says, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. When you read about Jehu in the Bible, Jehu deceived all his people, young and old, to go worship Baal. And once they came and worshiped Baal, he killed everybody in the building. Now, some of those people, they didn't know that some of those people grew up worshiping Baal. They thought that was the right way to do. They was just listening to their parents, their grandparents. But guess what? That's iniquity because it's a generational curse could be iniquity, right? So he was beaten for our transgressions and he was bruised for our iniquity. That's how you can remember the difference between iniquity and transgression. Transgression, you can see with your eye, right? Iniquity, and look, that's deeply embedded, rooted. That's behind the scenes. All right. So check this out. Moving on. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 3, right? Because we talked about how there was a just balance, right? But we also need to talk about how the Most High God within that just balance, has a time for everything. Right? The Most High God, and he got this whole thing mapped out. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. We can start at verse 1. 3 and verse 1. Right? It says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Talking about what? Solomon. Salakia. That was 1 and 1. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Salakia. Y'all can still hear me? Hey, you can still hear me, please put a 7 in the chat. I know it's got a lag. My alarm went off. 7. All right, con. So check this out. Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 1. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. So sometimes you might think, man, why is this happening to me right now, man? I'm being persecuted. Man, nothing's going right for me. But look, 10 months after, 10 months later, you forget about that low moment because you're in a high. You got a new car, you got a new house, you got a new girl, a new man. Everything's going good. That's because the Most High God has everything, even our personal lives, down to a science of seasons, right? Even the earth is on a fixed season, right? Even the growth of plants, there's seasons. Harvests, there's seasons. Everything has a season. So guess what? There's going to be seasons for everything. So a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted. And remember what I said, there's double to that which is. So when we're reading this, hey, look, it's twofold. There's a spiritual and there's a physical. All right. When you read scripture, it's twofold because it's a just weight. All right. That's why it says rightly divide the truth, because some of it's figurative and some of it's literal. So check this out. A time to be born and a time to die. What does that mean? Physically, a time to be born and a time to die, but also spiritually, there's a time that we were sleeping. We was in the American dream, right? And there's a time that we woke up to the truth of who the Most High God was and who we was, right? Let's keep reading. A time to plant and a time to pluck up. Hey, look, there's a time that we're going to be fishermen. We're fishing for people. And there's going to be a time we're going to be hunters, right? There's multiple seasons, right? But there's also on a physical level, when you plant in a harvest, there's a time to what? Plant the seed, and there's a time to pick the berries. All right. So, right? So check this out. Verse 3, it says a time to kill and a time to heal. Physically, hey, look, there's a time for war and there's a time to heal the wounds that happen from war. All right. A time to heal the wounds that happen from war. All right. A time to break down and a time to build up. There was a time to break down that wicked kingdom. There's a time to break down the temple. Right. But there was a time also 3 days for him to build that temple up again. All right. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones, right? All this is spiritual and physical. Let's jump to verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What does this mean? Hey, look, this means that the Most High God, he's doing everything according to his purpose and his election. So when they say the Most High, hey, look, you can't hate in the Bible. You can't hate in the Salakia. You can't, the Most High God wouldn't allow you to hate. The Most High God just told us there's a time to hate and there's a time for peace. There's a time for love. There's a time for war. Think about it. If the Most High God is going to use, it says that we're his battle axes and weapons of war. Are you telling me, right, that we're all going to go to war happy? How are we going to defeat anybody if we're happy? No, you have to have a level of anger, a level of hate to go to war, right? So that's why he's saying there's seasons. Sometimes you're going to have to be what? You're going to have to be angry. But he says sin not. How do you sin not? You always follow what the Most High God is saying. If the Most High God is telling you to go to war, right? Just like he told David, just like he told Saul, just like he told Gideon, just like he told Samson, just like he told Judith, just like he told all the people in the Bible, right? Then you go to war. That's how you know that you are listening to the Most High God. And that's how you know you're not in sin. Be angry and sin not. Right. But sometimes you're going to be called to hate somebody. Right. Because of what the Amalekites did to us. The Most High God said, hey, we got to wipe them out. So if the Most High God angry, he hate them. I hate them too. I'm angry too. I'm going to do his will. All right. So check this out. Let's go to Luke 14:28. And then, like I said, I'm just going over some of the harsh truths of coming into the truth. Right. Some of the harsh truth of coming into the truth is knowing, hey, look, that there's a time for everything. Right. An example, I always tell people, we all want peace, right? Everybody wants world peace. But sometimes to get peace, you're going to have to have division. You're going to have war, right? Because if somebody comes into my house and I have a child, I have a wife, I got a whole family, somebody comes into my house, I'm not just finna let them rob me, rape my wife and kill my son, right? I'm not going to let them do that. So in order to get peace, I'm going to have to go to war with whoever just came into my house. I'm going to have to get the gun, get the knife, get whatever, use my hands, and I'm going to have to go to war to get that peace. Also in a house, think about it, in a house, a house full of people. If you want peace in that house, if you truly want peace in that house, the one thing you can build in that house for peace are doors. If there's no doors, you're not going to have no peace. People want their privacy. People want a place to go debate in private, a place to go talk things out in private. People want counsel in private. People want, for their own sanity, a door, right, which divides a room from a room, right, will bring peace. And we don't even know something as simple as a door will bring peace, right? We see movies where people get in trouble and their parents take their doors away from them, right? Because they said, you're not going to close no doors in my house, right? And there's no peace in the house when that door is gone. That kid might act up more. All right. So check this out. Something as simple as a door that causes division brings peace. So that's how we gotta understand it's more complicated than just good and there's bad. No, the Most High God, he does everything according to his will. All right. So check this out. This is Luke chapter 14. My friend's mom did that in real life. Con, see that? It's not just the movies. This is Luke chapter 14. Now, when I read this is a hard pill to swallow too. When you first come into the truth. When you first come to the truth, this is a hard pill to swallow. Luke 14:28 or 26, right? Because it's already hard enough to see that the Most High God said, hey, look, let the dead bury the dead. You want to follow me? I want to follow you, sir. I want to follow you, good master. But, my dad just died. Can I please go bury him? The Most High God said, what? Let the dead bury the dead. The other disciple came up to him and said, I want to follow you, master, but let me bid my family farewell because I don't know when the next time I'll see them. He said, hey, look, foxes have holes, right? Birds have nests. I don't have nowhere to lay my head. Hey, look, worry about that. If you looking back, right? If you looking back already, like Lot's wife, if you looking back already, like you put the plow down and you look back, if you can't even keep your head on a straight and narrow now, you can't follow me. You can't be my disciple. You got to be like Andrew. You got to be like Peter and straight away cast your net down, cast your life away and follow me without question, right? If you want to be a disciple. So knowing that when we read this coming into the truth, that helps us to understand what he's meaning by this, right? So this is Luke chapter 14 and verse 26. If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sister, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. So what is this telling us? This is telling us what? This is telling us, it's not telling us, Slakia, it's not telling us that we have to hate them right now. And we can't get into the kingdom if I don't hate all these people. No, it's saying you have to be ready to, at any given moment, to be able to put these people down. Because even though they're a part of your family, who put them in your life? The Most High God placed them in your life. And if the Most High God is saying you got to be ready to what? Hate them, you got to be ready to hate them. Because there's going to become a day, like the brother said in Matthew 10 and 34, hey, look, it's going to come a day where he's going to bring a sword to divide people, right? And so he said, you have to be mentally prepared right now. Even if you don't hate them right now, they didn't do nothing wrong. They might be in the truth right now, but you have to be mentally prepared, right? The Bible says be prudent. What does it mean to be prudent? That means look well to your goings. What does it mean to be prudent? It means foresee what might take place in the future so you can be prepared for it, right? Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance, right? What does that mean? You got to be prior prepared. You got to be prepared prior to the event so that you will be prepared when it happens. And your performance is as such. You can be a good disciple, right? So it's not saying to hate them right now. They might be in the truth. You don't have no reason to hate. But guess what? A spirit might come upon them one day that causes you to hate them. And you have to be prepared right now. You got to be prudent. Look well to your going and say, even if my wife look back, I'm going to keep going straight. Even if this happens, I'm going to keep doing this. Even if this happens, I'm going to keep saying this. Even if this happens, I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to keep fasting. Even if this happens, if they want to go back into the world, I'm going to leave them behind. Right? A prudent man considereth the wicked, right? Considers the house of the wicked. All right. So check this out. And he also said your own self, right? You got to be ready to hate your own self. That means some of the opinions that come up, some of the thoughts that come up, like we're going over today, the harsh truths. Sometimes we don't agree with the text, and we can admit that and confess that. But guess what? It's not about what we agree with. It's about what's being said, right? What we can see with our eyes, the Most High God is saying to us. Thus saith the Lord. So that was my second point, right? The first point was there's a just balance. There's a just weight to everything. The Most High God creates good and evil, lightness and darkness. The second was, hey, look, the Most High God said there's a time and a season for everything, even hate. This is my third and final point of the harsh truth coming into the truth. Separation, right? Separation. Everybody's been taught from Christian dogma, right? Everybody's been taught that everybody's supposed to be together. There's not supposed to be any division. We're all humans. We're all the same beings. We're all got the same blood. We all are one big family. But the Bible never speaks on that. The Bible never tells us that. The Bible never made everybody one family, right? Even in the New Testament, right? So let's check this out. This is Matthew chapter 25 and 32. Matthew 25 and 32. It's little stuff that's being said like this. That's red letter, right? 25 and verse 32. When it's red letter, we know that what? That Christ is speaking. We're all God's people, right? We're all, hey, look, as a painter, think about a painter, right? A painter, he paints masterpieces. He paints murals and portraits. Guess what? He has some paintings that he doesn't like. So even though that painting is of that painter, guess what? It didn't make the shelf. It didn't make the cut. It might have got shredded up. It might have been a vessel for destruction, right? So guess what? Just because we're all God's creation does not mean that we're all fit for the kingdom. It doesn't mean that the Most High God liked. Hey, guess what? Everybody says, why does God have favorites? God doesn't have favorites. He's not a respecter of persons. If we're made in the likeness of his image and we have favorites, don't you think the Most High God has favorites? His favorite bird is the dove. Favorite fruit, the pomegranate or the fig or the apple. He said we're the apple of his eye. He got favorite people. That's us, the children of Israel. Right? What else does he have? He has what else does he have that's his favorite? A favorite plant, the lily, right? So he has favorites just like we have favorites. We're made in his likeness. We carry his emotions. All right. So check this out. Matthew 25 and verse 32. Take heed to this now. This is the New Testament. It says, and before him, who's it talking about? It's talking about that day of judgment. And before him shall be gathered all nations. It didn't say all people. It specifically said all nations. Right? Let's read this. And he shall separate them one from another. He's not going to separate people one from another. He's going to separate nations. This is the New Testament. This is talking about the end. He's going to separate nations. Not the good from the bad. There's only good and there's only bad. No, he's going to separate the nations. Right? It says, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divided his sheep from the goats. So the Most High God is all about separation. He's got to put things in order. He gave an inheritance to every nation, right? To make sure that they stayed separated. He told us not to give our daughters in marriage to certain nations, to keep us pure, keep us separated, right? Like I said, he's been separating from the beginning. From the beginning, from Genesis, it's always been separation. All right. So check this out. Let's go to Deuteronomy 32 and 8. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 8. Right? Deuteronomy 32 and verse 8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. Right? So everybody got their allotted land. You had the land of Shem. You had the land of Ham, the land of Japheth. You had the land, you have the Isles of the Gentiles, the land of Canaan, which is really for the Israelites. And you had the land of, you could say Mount Seir. You had the land of the Assyrians. You had the land of the Cushites, the land of Sheba, Queen of Sheba. You had all these lands and all their different inheritances, right? For separation, right? But now you could just come to America and we could all be one nation. It's a big melting pot. You can put away your dashiki. You could put away your hijab. You could put away your fringes. You could put away your Asian robe and come to America, put on some skinny jeans, some Vans, and become a hipster and one nation, right? That's how you know that this place is against the Most High God, because the Most High God said he likes separation. He's separated. But here, everybody's one. Just like the Tower of Babel, when he said, behold, the people are one. Was that a good thing or a bad thing? It was a bad thing. So that's why he had to separate. All right. Let's keep reading, though. Deuteronomy 32 and 8. When the Most High divided when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam. If we was on the line, that's when the reader or whoever was teaching would say that again. When he separated the sons of Adam. What? When he separated the sons of Adam. So everybody comes from Adam, they say. But he separated the sons of Adam. He didn't say that there was one family, one big happy family. And this is the harsh truth coming into the truth. Is that he endorses separation. Separated the sons of Adam. He set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. All right, so let's keep reading, right? Let's go to Sirach chapter 6 and 13. Dealing with separation, right? We're almost done. Dealing with separation. Sirach chapter, 6 and 13. Sirach chapter 6 and verse 13. And it reads, separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends. Separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends. Who's your friend? Right? We know that Christ said, hey, he that does the will of the Most High God, that's who our friend is. That's our mother. That's our sister. That's our brother. Right? But it says to separate from our enemies. Who's our enemy? Right? Let's take a deeper look into who our enemy is. Right? Let's go to the famous. Let's go to the famous quote, man. The famous scripture as of right now. Y'all can guess where I'm going. Who's our enemy? Right? Who's our enemy? Y'all know where I'm going? Does somebody know where I'm going when I ask who's our enemy and I said, hey, we're going to the famous scripture? I know it's a lag, so I'm going to wait a little bit. If you could take a wild guess where I'm going. It says separate from thine enemies. Who is our enemy? Right? I don't see nobody putting nothing. So I'm going to just say it. Khan, she said it. Deuteronomy 28 and 68. Right? It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt not see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Right? So who's our enemy? Right? Who were we sold to? That whole You got to think, it's a lot of people that sold us now. It's a lot of people that stole us. It's a lot of people that sold us. There's a lot of, and look, even the Northern Kingdom, under the reign of Hezekiah, they were sold on ships as well, right? So it's not just Edom. It's not just the so-called white man, right? It could be the so-called African man as well. It could also be the so-called Spanish man, the Spaniard, which is a so-called white man as well. You know what I'm saying? But the point is, our enemies are all those, right? The Bible says, hey, curse them that curse thee. All those that curse us, that put us in slavery, that sold us as a people, that stole us, that had us on them slave ships, that was making deals and sending, hey, look, I want a piece of the pie. Send one of those ships over here. Guess what? All of these people are our enemies, right? And the Most High God says separate from them. I always bring this example, right? Every nation that's not Israel, right? Because I wouldn't say every nation that's not Israel, because even coming out of Egypt, there were some nations that helped us, and the Most High God, made us to be at peace with them, and we're gonna go into that too, right? But they still are enemy. But check this out. I kind of overspoke, but check this out. It says separate from thine enemies, and that's a harsh truth coming into this truth. Reading this Bible, right? Reading this Bible, it says that we were sold to our enemies. It didn't say we were sold to our friends. It didn't say we were sold to our teammates, our classmates, our teachers, our pastors. It didn't say we were sold. They was never meant to be those things for us. They was meant to be our enemies from the beginning. But being raised up with them, playing hide and go seek, going to summer camp with them. Now, when we get to an adulthood, they're as even as us. We don't see nothing wrong with them, right? And that was strategically planned out so that we would be confused and who's our friend and who's our enemy. But like I said, hey, look, a good vessel can do so much wicked, but hey, if the Most High God made that vessel good from the beginning, that vessel's always going to be good. We see that with Paul. Paul was killing Christians, but Paul was still good. And also, an evil vessel can do so much good that you might think, man, that's a good person. Even though they're homosexual, that's a good person. Even though they're a drunkard, that's a good person. Even though they eat all the abominations in the world, that's a good person. No. If that vessel is unrighteous, if that vessel is fit for destruction, no amount of good can make that person different, because it's according to God's election. It's according to God's will. So if the Most High God made an enemy, right, that person doesn't change over time. That enemy doesn't change into a friend. That enemy stays an enemy. All right. Martin Luther King didn't understand separation until it was too late. You know what I'm saying? And when you come into the truth, you find out that statement too, because all they want to say is he had a dream. They just want to push that, but they don't want to push the other things that he said, right? And you should really know a man by what he says on his deathbed and not what he says at the height of his life. All right, so check this out. So that's an enemy. Everybody that had a hand in our spoils, they don't turn into our friends. They stay our enemy. Salakia. Let's go to Proverbs 16 and 7. What other types of enemies are there? Right? Proverbs 16 and 7. Almost done. Proverbs 16 and 7. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 16 and verse 7. It says, when a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. So when we do what the Most High God wants us to do, he makes our enemies be at peace with us. But guess what? Hey, they're still enemies. Just because they're at peace with us doesn't mean that they're still not our enemy. You do not change from being an enemy into a friend. You have an enemy and you have a friend. The Most High God says separate and know the difference between the two. You could be at peace with your enemy, but it's still an enemy. Meaning you never trust them. You don't tell them too much information. You don't give them too much, right? You treat them as such and move on with your life, right? You be respectable to all those who are respectable to you, but at the end of the day, they're still an enemy. The brother said, Sirach chapter 12 and verse 10. Let's bring it out. Sirach chapter 12 and verse 10. It says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness, right? So it might take a while for iron to rust. It might take a while for your enemy to show their true colors, but guess what? It'll always come to the light. It'll always come to the light. For example, well, moving on, right? Almost done. There's still an enemy. So, hey, look, you can have peaceful enemies. You can have enemies that's against you, that's selling you, that's had a hand in your destruction. And also, these could be your enemies too, right? I'm going to go here. I don't want to say it because as soon as I say it, if you've been in the truth for a hot minute, you're going to know what I'm talking about. This is also another type of enemy. Galatians chapter 4 and verse 16. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? Con, to the point of enemies turning into friends. Con, so they don't ever turn into your friend. No matter how much peace you have with them, they're going to always show their true colors. You know what I'm saying? And just to backtrack, for example, I remember I had a construction job and there was a lot of people of other nations there that was over me. And I was made peace with them because I keep the commandments. I wore my fringes to work. I didn't eat unhealthy food and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I kept the Most High God's law, statutes, commandments. So he made my enemies to be at peace with me. And while I was there, you know what I'm saying, I was treated well amongst better than a lot of other Israelites, whether they knew they were Israelites or not. But other than other so-called black people, I was treated pretty well, you know. And they told me when I left that if I ever had, you know what I'm saying, if I ever needed something to always reach out, if they needed a reference or whatever, you know what I'm saying. And I said, bet. So here I am looking for references or trying to get back in on a different job site and need their help. I'm reaching out. Nobody's responding to me. Nobody's getting back to me because even though, hey, look, they're not my friend. A true friend will be like a Israelite brother today that's in my phone right now that will be helping you look for opportunities to better your life. That's wanting to pray with you. That's a true friend. But these other people, they're your enemy. They don't really have your best interests at heart, right? They don't really want to waste time on you. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you can tell the difference. And that's how you can separate from your enemies. They never turn into your friends just because there's peace at a moment. There's a time and there's a season for everything. But this is another type of enemy. Galatians 4 and 16. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? Meaning what? What does that mean? Verbatim, this is what that means. Verbatim, this is what that means. Proverbs 28 and verse 4. They that forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. When you contend with something, that means you know what I'm saying? It's friction. There's beef. There's contact, right? There's disagreement. So they become your enemy because they forsake the law. And because they forsake the law, when you tell them the truth, they don't want to hear it, right? The Most High God put a fail-safe code and he gave people up to a reprobate mind. He made people believe a lie according for his purpose, right? So even Israelites, that's why I say, hey, all Israel is not of Israel. That's why I said be ready to hate the people in your family, right? Because they could be your enemy as well. So you can have plenty of enemies, right? And that's just the harsh truth of coming into this truth is that all these nations aren't your friend. We're not one big happy family. Your family could be your enemy. Your enemy is your enemy, right? There's a time for hate. There's a time for love. There's a time for everything. And guess what? There's a just balance. The Most High God has all this to happen according to his purpose, right? According to his plan, according to his will. We don't have free will. So with that, I'm going to say shalom. Hope Most High will. Somebody was edified. Once again, giving all glory, honor, and praise to the Most High by the way of his son. This is part 2 of the harsh truth, right? Y'all have a blessed, wonderful day. Rest of the day, endure in this captivity, and shalom.